Hey Dwayne, how you doing?
I'm fine. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing good. Hey everyone. Thank you for tuning in. We're doing another episode of the UFO podcast with Dwayne Loken and John Shad. Say hi to the people, Dwayne.
Hi, people again.
Here we are, man. New year, 2025.
We want to wish you a real happy new year within the industry, and everybody does really well, and they're comfortable and relaxed and not so stressed out. We're all looking for good things this year. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Here's to another year around the sun, huh?
Yeah, laying in the beach, soaking up the ghosts.
Well, speaking of good times, this episode, Dwayne wanted to tell you folks his story of working on an independent show. It was a movie, right?
Yes, it was.
It was a movie. All right, it was an indie, and I guess you were renting out some gear, and you guys ended up having quite an experience there. This was at the. Why don't you tell us where it was? Where were you guys?
Camarillo State Mental Hospital. It had been shut down for a while, and we were the first film crew allowed to be there. And from everything I understand, we were the last film crew allowed to be there.
How did you guys? Was that area restricted?
Well,
Yeah, go ahead.
it was private property, and it was managed by, you know, a business entity for the city of Camarillo. And it had been, at one time, it was the largest mental hospital in the state of California. I think it said they had 7,000 patients. They had about 2,000 or 3,000 personnel.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a self-sustaining environment in that they had their own cattle for slaughtering because they were so far outside the city. They had no plumbing. They had like no cesspools. They had, well, okay, that's not true.
This was during the time it was founded. Do you know roughly when it was founded? Because Camarillo is like, for the people that don't know, I would say like 25 minutes from Santa Barbara. So it's out there on the coast, close to the coast. A lot of vineyards, ranches, open fields.
Right.
So I mean, I can imagine what, maybe 40s, 50s, if that. What would you think? What would you guess?
You mean acres or?
No, when it was built and founded.
Wow. I think it was, boy, I had all that information about just before the New Year's Day. I don't have any of it written down.
It's all right.
But I believe it was like in the late teens or early 20s, 1920, 1930s.
Yeah.
And you had a lot of people that were there that were from very wealthy families, and families would put that relative there and waited for them to die. In some cases, they may have done things to help speed up their demise.
Camarillo State Hospital was a psychiatric hospital located in Camarillo, California. It was open from 1936 to 1997.
Okay, thank you.
So this is a building during 1936.
Right.
And that goes back, my point being is that, like you were talking about, they're self-sufficient. They had their own cattle, their own power plant, right? You were saying there was
They had
a power
steam-driven turbine, big boiler for boiling the water to drive the turbine to supply electricity. They were not hooked into the city utilities at all. So they had to have electricity, they had to have sanitation, and they had their own huge vegetable garden. Like we're talking corn, beans, string beans, to support all the people that worked there and stayed there at Camarillo.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of folks. I'm looking it up right now. I think, let's see. Can go over to it here. Yeah, big facility. Man, it was huge.
Oh, yeah.
Camarillo State Hospital. Showing the people a photo of the building. It almost looks like it's a bell tower.
Mm-hmm.
It's really wide. Arches. Bunch of arches, right?
Yeah, from like the California missions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So you guys were shooting an indie film there, huh?
Yeah, it was an indie film, and it was a comedy, a murder comedy, I think. I never got to see the script, We were just, I was a vendor supplying a 10-ton lighting truck, 10-ton grip truck, and a dolly. Nothing special. Bottom of the level guy.
Yeah, so in this psychiatric hospital, they had, I mean, all kinds of things going on. So why are we talking about Camarillo Hospital right now, Dwayne?
Well, let's see. I'm supposed to be talking about this event that happened there at the hospital, and well,
Well, I suppose, given the fact that we're coming into a new year, we're sort of hitting a reset in the cycle of time that is the beginning of the year. And, that kind of got us on the subject of, being reinvented, re-existing, rising from the ashes. And then you remembered this story. You're like, oh, speaking of rising from the ashes,
yeah.
go
Okay.
on, please.
Well, all right. When it became part of the city of Camarillo and they were going to turn it into a college, they were checking out. There were a lot of deaths because there were a lot of old people there, and they weren't set up to do major surgeries, although there were a lot of surgeries that took place there. Part of the scenes we had to be at on site was to be where they had their operation room, their surgical room.
Mm-hmm.
The interesting thing was that the table that they laid patients on to have lobotomies was also the same table they had patients on for surgery. They tried to keep us out of a room, but we had to get plugged into electrical outlet or something, whole grid.
Yeah.
And we're going, what are these? And they go, well, that's what they cut the top of the skulls off with, and an air-powered jigsaw, so to say, for lack of a better term. And it was kind of a gory thing. And there was a lot of the custodians that were guiding us around, or the keepers, whatever you want to call them, were saying the place had a bad reputation because there were a lot of unusual feelings, a lot of unusual events. So kind of like, everybody's all primed up to, we're going to see ghosts, or we're going to have chills and willies and all kinds of weird stuff. The problem is a lot of weird stuff did happen. We were going ahead, and they led us into where the kids used to have. There were two pools, or one pool that was divided into two. And so they were, they just finished shooting a scene, everything's fine. And so they want to record some room tone. And so the audio engineer is recording on his Nagra. And he's just he just stood there and he just kept looking at his Nagra, and he had a really intense look, and people are like, look at, what's he doing? He's doing room tone. Shh.
Yeah.
Really. And then so he goes, cut. And the guy just let it roll, and he goes, cut. And he's like, cut. So I go, are you all right? He goes, you have to hear this. So I'm saying it with a smile because I was there and I didn't have a responsibility for anything except just making sure our gear worked. But he was shook up, to say the least. And so he plays it back, rewinds, and, this is analog, tape, reel-to-reel tape, and all that kind of jazz. Another world.
The good stuff.
The good stuff. Yeah. And so he rewinds it and he hits play and switches it to play. And you could hear children's voices. You could hear them shouting. You can hear them splashing in water. And we look over at the pools, and there's nobody inside the pool.
Were the pools empty?
No, there was water there.
Okay.
Yeah. They were going to convert it to a university of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
They could have stopped maintaining the pool, but that would have maybe caused, algae to build up and stuff. And they were going to have a swim team there working out. So they probably were maintaining, the chlorine levels in the water and not bother to refill it, because that's got to be very expensive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
you say he was recording this on a Nagra?
On a Nagra, yeah.
What is that? I've never heard that.
Oh, it's made in Switzerland. In its day, it was the finest sound recording device in existence from sound engineers. I have a Nagra.
Oh, wow.
I used to have a stereo Nagra.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought they were the most beautiful piece of equipment ever next to a camera. And when we were doing music videos and stuff like that, when I used to work overseas in Sweden and Norway, I had my two Nagras. And
that's pretty cool. So he
got
ghost children,
for lack of a better term,
away,
splashing in the water, and it's let's play.
Really?
Jaws! No, I'm just kidding. Da, 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 da. But anyway, the bottom line is there were no kids there. There was no water being moved. It was just sitting there still. And he's like, he's just looking at all of us, and we're all looking at each other like, wow, this is really insane. So
Everyone is a little thrown off by it.
yeah, so the UPM is saying, the first AD says, okay, that's enough of that. We don't need to scare ourselves. And everybody's thinking there's got to be a gag.
Yeah.
Somewhere, this has got to be a joke somewhere.
Custodians having a good time with you.
Yeah, and it was kind of like pre-hyped to us. Well, don't be upset by anything unusual that you might see or experience. So we're all kind of hyped up to maybe want to see something.
Mm-hmm.
So our minds are working overtime to manifest
Right.
something. Who cares what it is?
Yeah.
But it did get better. So we get out of the pool area, and then so we're running cables and just making sure they got enough stuff getting out of the truck. And one of the people goes, hey, come here. And he's talking to, I guess, the gentleman he's working with, one of the crew guys, one of the electrics, or one of the grips. And they open the door, and here on the green board and the blackboard in chalk is, you don't belong here. Leave now. And we're like, what the hell is this? And we're kind of looking like, okay, who did it? It's not Halloween, but
How big of a crew was this? Like 3 dozen people?
If it had 3
If
dozen, if that, I think it's
Yeah.
more like about 21, 22 people.
Okay, so small groups. So
Very
everyone's kind
small.
of looking at each other like, who's doing this?
Somebody's really
Who's
pulling
doing
our
this?
tails
Is
around
it you,
here.
Dwayne? I know
It
you're a
could have been.
jokester.
Well, I was waiting for the old piss and poop smell in the solarium. That was a good one, like rotten peanut butter and jelly. Anyway, so
So in this room, there's
on the
inscribed
classroom,
in the classroom. Okay.
you must leave here now. You don't belong here. Leave here now. And we're like, geez, that's a little sinister. Somebody's got a twisted sense of humor.
Yeah.
And the custodian says, no. And then he picks up an eraser from off where the chalk sits, and he just starts wiping it down. And he got on the radio, and somebody came in and wiped it really clean. So there was no residue left of chalk to see that anybody had written anything on that board.
Of course.
But we all saw it,
Yeah.
so who did it? Who did it? And like you can hear people's like, did you do it? But nobody copped out to it, So then we wind up going over to the solarium. And so what that is, that's where the patients could come from their rooms, and they would have rose bushes and fuchsias and stuff like that.
Was it like a therapeutic kind of thing?
Yeah, a therapeutic room to just relax, chill out. I mean, people that are, in emotional or mental or physical distress, they have a lot of energy that has to be calmed down. You don't want to put them always on tranquilizers because that has a negative effect after a while.
Of course, yeah.
So the solarium was built, and it was beautiful. But we'd be in there filming, and they get knocking out the scenes, and people would start like, well, what's that? What's that? And they'd do you smell that? And you'd smell old urine, really rotten urine. So we'd like, that is so weird. So we figured, okay, maybe there's some plumbing. So I remember at one point, one of the people was saying, could that be the bathroom plugged up or something? In case somebody has to use it, we don't want to go in there. And he goes, no, people smell stuff in here. And really? And he goes, yeah. He says, you're just catching a lot of residue of people's energy that's still occupying this space. Okay, to me that doesn't sound too crazy. I'm half Comanche Indian. I was educated on a reservation. And to have issues of spirits or spirituality or some type of dissipated or displaced energy is not an unusual thing. It's part of our culture.
Mm-hmm.
And you had asked me earlier, did any of that stuff really freak me out? No.
Well,
I have seen things, but I'm sorry.
right. No, it was, I was asking you, was there at any point in time, at what point did you sort of start, not freaking out, but going like, well, man, what the hell's going on here? Spooked, I guess, was the word I used. At what point did you get spooked? Because I told you, I know you're like I've known how you grew up. You know, we've been to powwows, we've done things
Yeah.
like that, and you know, you're aware of some spiritual realm. You
Yeah.
told me you're very aware
Yeah.
of it. You know, and I was just curious, at what point did you kind of go like, "Fuck, we got to get out of here"?
I never felt we had to get out of here because, to my knowledge, nobody was talking about like the custodians, the people that let us in there to do the filming with the producers. Nobody was ever talking of curses or things like that. Nobody was talking about harmful energy. And again, if something really negative had manifested itself, it very well could have been from the expectation the person may have had that, oh, I wonder if there's ghosts here.
Mass
Well,
hysteria.
yeah, exactly. You know, one thing feeds another thing and to feed another thing. And pretty soon everybody's experiencing something that's really spooky. And there's nothing spooky to it. It's
Mm-hmm.
all explainable, you know.
Yeah.
At one point, one of the custodians says, "Well, that smell is we're trying to we could follow the smell out of the solarium down the hallway, and then it would disappear. So we'd back up until we could smell it again, and we got to a room for a resident and a boarder or whatever it is. I forget what they used to call them. And he'd say, "Well, a person died in this room, and the smell never was able to get cleaned out." Hmm. I think you can clean anything with enough Lysol and Clorox. You know what I'm saying? But if something keeps remanifesting itself, well, are we having a supernatural event or somebody's just pouring something on the ground to shake everybody up, you know?
Yeah, you were saying earlier before we started shooting this that it was specific words you used, saying that it was almost following people around. The
Yes.
smell,
It
right?
would seem to attach to people and they'd say,
Yes.
it's like it's following me, you know? And we'd walk over to them and we'd walk with that person and the smell was following them.
Mm-hmm.
So what was it that was manifesting that odor that was like a dog
Yeah.
following the cheeseburger?
Yeah, I
I
do
don't
know
know.
one of the things they say with paranormal stuff is that there's wretched odors
Yeah.
that, you know, tend to just kind of come out of nowhere when the activity gets active.
Well, that was me without my deodorant. Whatever.
So okay, so you're in this room,
Yep.
doo-doo smell following people. What happens?
Well,
And
fluorescent lights would start to flicker. And part of what would cue you that something was passing, it had established its territory, okay, so to say. As the smell was stronger and stronger, and we were right near it, the fluorescent lights began to flicker. So the electrics got in and they figured, okay, we must have a faulty connection or something.
yeah.
And then you go ahead and they check if they do a continuity test, but no, everything checked out just fine. So clearly there was some kind of manifestation of odors, smells, and then the custodian. And that's probably not the right term for the individual, but they were watching out for the interests of the people who were in control of the hospital. Okay, it's all closed down. They didn't want any vandalism, you know.
Right. The representative.
Correct. So we got past all the smells, got past the willy jillies, and everything. And anytime there was a manifestation of something, you know, people are beginning to freak out, you know, and some of us are laughing, some of us are snickering, you know, and maybe they're just kind of snickering and laughing because they don't want to say, I'm really scared, you
Yeah.
know, because later on in the day, we had to go downstairs to the second floor down where the operating theater was. And we came across the room. We opened up the door, and it wasn't locked. It had been closed, but the latch hadn't connected into the hole. You know.
Was it a film theater where they showed films, or was it
No,
like
I'm sorry. When I say
performance?
theater, it was an operating. They call it operating theater, or the
Okay.
environment or the place where they actually do lobotomies or surgeries.
Right.
And you know, they never really delineated. Could they do major surgeries there?
Well, I would
Well,
imagine during that time a lot of it was experimental. I mean, we're talking pre-World War II.
yeah.
You
There's a
know.
lot of stuff that was with your brain nobody understood. So let's just cut it
Hmm.
open and see if there's lights in there. You know.
Right.
Really weird stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so at some point, we hear a woman screaming, just screaming at the top of her lungs, we imagine. And we all go running, you know, what the hell? Who is that? And the voice was just in such terror. Nobody could figure out who it was. So we're running around and finally we get into a room. And the room was where they had electroshock therapy chairs, and excuse me.
Yeah. Electroshock therapy chairs.
Yeah, and so at first they denied that they ever had them. And somebody says, well, I think I found a room full of them. And there were 7 of them, 6 or 7 of them.
Chairs?
Chairs. And you'd put a steel beanie on,
Yeah.
and you were clamped down because when you're given charge of electricity, of course, you just kind of jolt if you're alive.
Mm-hmm.
Once you're dead, I guess you don't jolt much. But
Right.
here's this woman, one of the crew people, screaming. I don't know if she was an electric or a grip. We were supplying generators to the show, so we're always checking our stuff because even the power fluctuations are all over the map.
Yeah.
But so they all go running, and I and my friend, we get, my other buddy, we go down there and we're just making sure the power's running. And she was laying flat out, like she's screaming, I can't get up, I can't get up.
She was on like flat on her stomach on the
flat
ground.
on her stomach, yeah. And we thought, did you trip? Did you fall? Is anything broken? She goes, no, there's something standing on my back. I feel like there's a foot on my back. I'm like, gee, what the hell? And so 2 people got one on each arm. Another guy got on her ankles and tried to lift her. We couldn't get her off the ground. So finally, a custodian came. When the custodian came, he went into one of the side rooms. And then she could be rolled over. She could roll herself over. And she actually got up and she says, I'm out of here. And that was it. She walked out and never came back.
Yeah. That's a wrap.
That's right. Well, just for her.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, like, gee, she was legitimately scared. If this really, you can get so scared you can get yourself to have a paralytic fit. And your muscles lock up on you. Adrenaline is just being pumped into your system, and it's getting so many signals it can't respond intelligently. It doesn't decipher it, and that's because you're so scared. There's a point of hysteria that overpowers how the body works, or all of our safety mechanisms are overpowered. We just kind of lock up, and she may have hit that. That was it, The other thing is they said when they began to come in there and start digging up the grounds, they had so many death certificates for people that died there, including young people. But again, this is believed to have been people that they had the names of most all the people, but they had 200 bodies that had no paperwork on them, or at least they couldn't find the paperwork yet.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it didn't show up. Doesn't mean it wasn't there.
Unclaimed individuals.
Yeah, pretty much. And the bodies that they did find, they repatriated. They moved them somewhere else off the property because it was no longer going to be a mental hospital. It was going to be a college, So it was quite a place, There's other things my mind is just, I haven't talked about this. I haven't thought about this in decades. And as I'm talking, I'm going, wow, I know about that. What about that? And I'm trying to keep a really cool head about this,
Well, let's kind of dive into the not cool head of yours. What's one thing that, just keep it whatever you're comfortable talking about. What's something that isn't level-headed, where like, what are you thinking about? Like the entity itself, or like, what are you thinking? like some kind of demon in there? Or you think she was just kind of freaked out from being down there? Because when people do get scared, it's fight or flight.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Or freeze. Freeze is one of
Correct.
the safest points. Our natural reactions to circumstances where we're really scared. Sometimes people freeze up. You think she just froze up, or is there a part of you that kind of thinks something's down there?
I'm Native American. I have been involved in different tribal rituals and stuff like that, where there is the invitation for life forces to come and involve itself with the living people left behind within the family clan. And sometimes the results are like nothing fantastic or super stendous happens. Nothing, people's eyeballs don't roll around on their heads or stuff like that. Because believing in an afterlife is the way for our people. And to what level to what dimension we're talking about, that's a personal thing that everybody has to identify. And if they can't find it on their own, then a tribal elder or a wise man or a medicine man will help guide it and direct it, and figure out, well, is this just from within them or is it from some external source? But I've seen a lot of unusual things that I would probably never see in white society. People play with Ouija boards.
Yeah.
And people claim that they felt some presence. Was it a demon force? Was it maybe they just, I don't know.
So during that time, I mean, that at Camarillo, you were there a week.
Yeah.
Max. At what point did these things stop happening? I mean, did people quit, or she's the only one that left?
No, a couple of others left along the journey. But the thing
was it when she got spooked, like she spooked other people and they left too, or did something else happen?
Yeah, there was always something you thought. People say, I keep feeling I'm hearing somebody whisper in my ear.
Really?
Oh yeah. Now did they really hear a whisper in the ear? Or was that just subconscious? Was that fear? Was it wanting to be scared? And when they got scared, sometimes people would go, "Oh, you poor person!" So they get reinforcement to manifest something. "Oh, you poor person,"
A little community formed.
Yeah, I want to get up for lunch early today, whatever. But there definitely was something there. My experiences that I had on the Native community. People say, "Oh, I saw a great grandfather." "Oh, how old is he?" Well, if he was alive, he'd be 250 years old.
Oh my God! Yeah, look, I found a photo right now. I'm showing to the people. It's Camarillo State Mental Hospital, and it's a room with, man, I think the film crew themselves, like 23 people. Half of them are laying down on one side of the room, and on the other side, there's people sitting in chairs in front of beds where people are laying down, and all their faces are blurred. It's really creepy. But this place has a long history.
Yeah.
It seems, That's in Oregon, but yeah, what made that? I mean, aside from all the creepy stuff that happened, what made that shoot memorable to you?
It was probably the first shoot I'd been on where I was with pretty much all white folks, and all this supernatural stuff was going on. You got the funniest smile on your face. No, what's on your mind?
Well, now that you say that, did at any point some of them come up to you like, "Hey, Mr. Native, what do you think?"
Well, yeah, like there were some crew folks would, let's say, so you're from people that have spooky stories to tell. What is your take on this? I go, it could either be a self-manifesting, self-fulfilling prophecy in their imagination, or, well, that sounds pretty good, or you're really having an experience with a supernatural life form that's from another dimension. Which do you want to believe in?
Mm-hmm.
And, we lose a relative, and I hear people saying at the funeral or the, whatever the event that they have afterwards, that as if I could feel my grandfather talking to me. Are they? Are they not? Who can make that judgment call? But I just felt that I'd never felt more alive, except when I'd be on the reservation in the community and would be doing some ceremonies or chants or prayers. I mean, there's something that we wrote, and as I was writing it, talking about ceremonies and rituals, brought back memories of what it was like in Arizona. And I know those things are alive. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I do believe, just from what I've experienced, that our life force goes on. And sometimes it's going to be a good deal. Maybe it's going to be a bad deal. But we just don't diminish. We just don't disappear. Some part of us is left behind.
Yeah.
And there we go. I'm trying not to sound really like do 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 do.
Try not to spook yourself out is all.
Well, yeah, I don't want people thinking, "Who the hell is this guy? What a freak!" I mean, we know I'm weird, but I'm not making this stuff up. Can I tell the one about my grandma's house?
Yeah, well, we talked about that in a previous episode, but yeah, I mean, you've had freaky moments happening. Please go ahead.
Well, my grandfather, he had been in the cavalry of the ending of the Spanish American War, and he was like when I was a little kid. Geez, I was maybe 7, 8, 9 years old at the most, and he used to listen to a radio program from his hospital bed in the house, and whenever there was a certain, I think, I don't know, "Oh Beautiful America" or the Star Spangled Banner or something. I forget what the actual song was. He would try to salute, and he'd be in his hospital bed in his room. This is in my grandma's house, and he'd start to cry. And so at one point I asked Grandma, I said, "So why is Grandpa crying?" And she goes, he's sorry for all the lives that he saw lost and destroyed in the war. And I'm going, wow. And his toenails were pretty much all wrecked. His toes are wrecked because a lot of horses, I guess, their hooves stepped on his shoes, and that hurt him a lot. They were soft leather shoes. They weren't like the heavy-duty combat boots and stuff that they have today. But I'm inside the inner living room, and it had a skylight up above, and it was open to the sunlight to come in.
Mm-hmm.
And all the doorknobs were like glass, like crystal. So, and they had facets, a lot of facets, almost like a diamond, so to say.
Yeah.
And so if they moved and the light was coming into the skylight, you could very easily see the light refracting off the facets of the glass doorknob. And so at one time I'm playing my, puzzle games and stuff there in the parlor. That's what we used to call it. And I just, I felt, I got goosebumps. The hair went up on the back of my neck. And I just kind of looked over to the side, and I saw the glass doorknob slowly turning to the left. And I'm going like, I don't know what I thought, but I was like, whoa. And then the door just slowly swung open, and there was Grandpa laid in bed. You could see through him, but you could definitely see him. And and the radio program that he used to listen to while he was alive was playing, and I saw him do like this, and then he put his hand down, and he disappeared. And like, once I thought, well, now E equals MC squared. What do I do with this? I got up and I ran into the kitchen. No. I just saw Grandpa. He's in his hospital bed. No, darling, he's in the military service. He's been dead now for a few months. No, he's in the bedroom right now.
How old are you?
About 7, 8, or 9.
You were a kid. Yeah, you were a kid.
I was a little guy. I didn't crap my pants. I thought I would, but I don't know. It was, And I told Mom. She said, "We'll call your mother and she'll come pick you up." I go, yeah. But nothing hurt me. Nothing harmed me. It was just my own sense of fear. And the only thing that helped a lot is I used to have a lot of long talks with Grandpa when he was in condition to talk. And we used to talk about his goals, what he would have liked to see, and things he was very unhappy with. He hated war, thinks it's a terrible thing, and of course it is. But he very much believed in an afterlife. He says, "I didn't used to believe in anything of that nature, but he says, I've just seen so much death and the escaping of life." He says, "I know there's got to be more." And so he had a supernatural awareness of some sort he picked up in the battlefields or something.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. Well, that's the Camarillo State Mental Hospital story for you folks.
And Happy New Year.
Yeah, man, that's pretty crazy. Yeah.
You know,
All right, Dwayne. I think the people got a good taste.
they're probably thinking this guy needs a lot of mental help.
They shouldn't have shut the hospital down.
No, where's my place? Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interesting stuff out there. You know, it just one day we'll probably get to know more of it, but right now we're just kind of, you know, everybody's like, this is what I
we're
think.
putting
This is what I
feelers out
think.
there. Yeah,
Everybody's
man.
putting feelers out there. Yeah. So whatever, but don't mean to freak anybody out. This is just, you know, for fun and entertainment.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's why you're in the industry, huh?
That's why I'm in the industry. There's no business like show business. No, I love this industry. You've met some of the most talented people in the world, artists, carpenters, geez, camera people, still photographers. It's another form of life.
Definitely, man.
It's really great.
But I think we'll wrap this one up here.
All right, bro.
You know, thanks for listening to the UFO podcast with my good buddy Dwayne Loken.
My good buddy John.
I'm your host here, John Shad, and we'll see you on the next one. Goodbye, people. Say bye to the
Bye-bye.
people.
Happy New Year. Thank you.